I would tend to agree with you. Um, you were
The
a
background of
former.
that is me and Jeremy haven't liked a lot of people in radio. I remember when you started in the industry, you're like, oh, we can all get along. Like, oh boy.
Yeah, that
Okay,
didn't
young
work
boy,
out so
you're
well.
older than I am. But I was thinking, okay, young boy, you'll get your chops sharpened, and when you get in this industry, yeah. And you're like, God, everyone's an asshole. Like, yep.
When you're in radio and conservatism doesn't work, here's what happens. People start attacking, okay? I'm a conservative at heart. You know that through and through. That's why you call me the caveman, because I have traditional beliefs and values. But there are some things that are broken, and you're not afraid to talk about them. I'll just throw a few out there. How about tort reform? How can
Tort reform.
Republicans look you in the eye?
Tort reform is the idea that we don't want frivolous lawsuits, and so we need caps on damages.
Right.
But I don't know why we would trust people in your local state house to determine how much your leg is worth when they amputate the wrong leg, or your child is worth when he gets run over by a FedEx truck or whatever. Why do we trust them to do that?
Let's be honest about tort reform.
To do other things.
Tort reform started out as a good idea, but like everything else, it has been manipulated to a
terrible
point.
Idea. It never was a good idea. It's a big government way to benefit insurance companies. That's all it is.
And CEOs.
If we believe it, why don't we allow our politicians to determine whether someone's guilty or not?
That's a terrible idea.
Why?
Well, because they're slimy, they're not ethical.
Right. So you're and I'm not for the position either. I'm not saying that I support that, but that's essentially what you're saying in tort reform.
Well,
we have a jury
that's
of your
true.
peers.
You're right. That's true.
Have a jury of your peers determine if you're guilty or not. We should have a jury of your peers determine how much your kid's life is worth. And maybe the having a leg is a huge deal for someone who's a farmer. But,
right.
It's a huge deal for anyone. But someone who sits their fat ass at their desk like me, I could do my job without a leg. I don't want to lose my leg, but so it's worth more to a farmer than it is for me. Why should some legislator? And by the way, we have tort reform here in Indiana. We have the shittiest doctors in the whole country. Well, not the whole country. I wouldn't have a hangnail done and taken off in Oklahoma. But we have shitty doctors here. Not all, but some doctors here are really crappy.
Right.
Because I won't take any medical malpractice cases. I can't make any money at them.
Let me ask you this. When the government steps in and says, we're going to do this, and there's going to be mandates, but you are not allowed to sue for an adverse reaction, what do you think about that?
When you're not allowed to sue who?
For an adverse reaction to anything. The FDA says it's good. Once the FDA says it's good and you take it, it doesn't matter if you have an adverse reaction. You cannot sue them.
Yeah, no, I don't believe in immunity statutes. I don't believe that other than gun manufacturers, there are certain things I believe in. Why should a gun manufacturer be held liable because someone bought their weapon, legally bought it, and then went out and blew a bunch of people away? They want to hold gun manufacturers liable. That's insane. And
right.
Should car manufacturer be held liable for running someone over? I mean, it makes no sense.
Exactly. But, should alcohol manufacturers be, have to be financially responsible for the end user and what they do after they consume alcohol? Yeah. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, no. As long as it can be used safely, and you choose not to use it safely. Now, like things like cigarettes, yeah, I think they ought to be held liable because there's no safe way to use a cigarette. There's just not.
So when I first met you, you had a big stance on illegal immigration. And I think
lock the damn border down.
Well, okay, so isn't that weird, coming from a Democrat point of view now, that you would say lock the border down? Or is the Democrat stage so perverted that they've lost the JFK in the Democrats?
I think you have what's happening in this country, I think, is you have the middle class being essentially is vanishing. And if you look in any country, all the countries around the world, Latin America, Africa, some certain Asian nations, when you, and especially Latin America, because I've studied Latin America a lot in undergrad, I just found it interesting. Why are we the ones who are most powerful on the same continent as Mexico and Canada? And what that was one thing I was always interested in. Why is it United States? What is different about us than all these other countries are in the same hemisphere, the same climate, more or less, a little hotter down there, but there are areas that have our climate in Latin America. Why isn't there a southern United States?
Right.
One of the reasons is our political stability, but that is based upon the middle class. If you look at other nations, in Latin America especially, when you have an absent or a diminishing middle class, you have a few people at the top and a lot of people at the bottom. And it allows people on both sides, left and right, as we have in our country, become extreme. It's all their fault. It's all the rich people's fault. Or it's all those lazy-ass poor people's fault. So you are seeing that in our country. We've had the middle class being cored out for the last 30 years through a lot of different reasons. Jobs going overseas, the right wing, somehow, everyone coming together as a worker, wanting higher wages and a company's badge, but all the executives meeting every quarter and deciding to slash wages. That's okay. Oh, that makes a lot of hell of sense. So your middle class it's been harder and harder to get by in this country. That makes people really frustrated and struggle and want someone to blame. And so now you have rise of people like Bernie Sanders and rise of kooks like Rand Paul. He's a kook. The guy voted no on everything. You could probably put, if I ever get in office, I'm going to put forth a resolution. We condemn slavery and just see if he votes for it. And if he votes for it, I'm going to be like, oh my God, Rand Paul voted yes for once. No, Rand Paul votes no. Like what else is new? But you have far right candidates and far left candidates who do not reflect. They get most of the media attention. The squad, they get a lot of attention, but they don't represent, I don't think, most Democrat voters. I don't think most people have a place to go.
Well,
most people just
I
want
agree
stuff
with
solved.
that. Right. They don't have a place to go because there's no middle ground anymore. I mean, we're to a point in this country where everybody wants to fight about everything. Look at Dave Chappelle.
Everything. Yeah.
He can't even get up and give his comedy speech because people want to fight about it. And it's comedy. It's literally satire for people to laugh at. And we've got people that are going crazy about it. Now,
some of that is that people haven't stood up either. Dave Chappelle ought to be like, I got 15 million reasons not to give a tin shit what you have to say.
That's a
or
fact.
however much he's worth. Kiss my ass. And I'd watch him more for that. Like, I love it. But
I want to find something that me and you disagree on. How about transgenders, for example? I believe that transgenders should not be able to be in biologically dictated sports.
No, I agree with that. So how about gay marriage? So we're going to agree on that.
Okay, so we're going to agree on that.
Leah Thomas is a man. I'm sorry. You might cut it off and have some silicone pumped into your chest, but you're still a man.
Right.
Look at the record sheet. It's 32 seconds. I mean, give me a break. You might as well just stand on the side of the pool and not even get in if you're a woman.
Here's something we should talk about. When me and you were fostered into the conservatism ideology, we were taught that unions were bad. Now, unions can be corrupt, but what they focus on as a conservative is unions are all corrupt, they're costing everybody money, blah, blah, blah. But then after you start looking at the manipulation and the levers of power, you realize that the political system is the one that's really distorted the unions, and that the unions of themselves are not actually that bad. Now, let me ask you something. Yeah. Is that a Democrat position or is that a Republican position? I don't know anymore.
I don't know, nor do I think me and you care.
The truth.
Because I think it's the right position.
I do too.
There are bad unions out there. There are bad companies out there. But there's a hell of a lot more bad politicians than there are of either of the other two.
Exactly.
And if people in a union are corrupt, why is that my problem? Not my problem. It's a union member problem. They're the ones that are paying the idiots dues.
And they have the power to do something about it.
Yeah, they have power to do something. All these school boards, this school board is corrupt. Then why is it my problem? Trump says, "Oh my God, the crime in Chicago is terrible. 80 people got shot last weekend." Yeah, in a city with 5 million people, 80 people got shot. That's a lot, but that's what they voted for.
Right.
They want to live in their little gun-filled little shithole where everyone's getting shot. More power to them. I don't live there, and I'm not going to live there. Chicago's a beautiful city, but I don't want to drive down one street and then suddenly be in gangland.
Okay,
That's
so
what they voted for. I don't want my money going to save their assets from themselves.
now that's a unique way to look at it.
Yeah, that's what they voted for. It's what they like.
Let me ask you
San
this.
Francisco shit all over the streets. They must like that because that's what they voted for.
I'm gonna
Enjoy
say
it.
something
Don't flip.
that I believe is the truth, and I'm pretty sure that you have the opposite idea that I do. I believe that the number one problem facing America is single mothers with no fathers around. That's number one. And I believe that because of society and, women being like, well, I can sleep with however men I want, how many people I want, and I'm not going to treat the man.
Wait. Hold on.
Sure.
Who are those women? Do you have like their numbers?
I don't have their numbers, but it's this
I have a pen here. I'm ready
idea
to take it down.
that
You don't. Oh shit! You don't actually have names and numbers.
well, no, I mean, here's the idea.
You're pretty ugly, Jeremy. I need all the help I can get. I mean, come on.
Hey, you're
Come on,
married.
You're supposed to help a brother out. Women who will sleep with anyone.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I'm ready.
there's a lot of them out there. Okay, it's a lot easier to
Damn.
bag and tag today than it was back in our day. But the truth,
My name moves Missouri, I guess.
well, no, I mean it's across the nation. The truth of it is that the destruction of the American family and the patriarchy, which I don't really care if people don't like it, the patriarchy is necessary in the social system that we live. It creates the most societal benefits. But I believe that the biggest problem is obviously men have forgotten how to be men, but women expectations, especially single mothers, are ruining this country. What do you say about that?
No, okay. So this is what's ruining the country. The fact that you can't raise a family anymore, or you can't afford to.
That's true.
You can't afford to raise a family anymore. So you need both parents to work. Let me tell you something. People aren't any more likely to fuck nowadays than they were before. Maybe it's more socially acceptable to be a single parent. That might be true, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, because before you had women who were afraid to get divorced because their family would alienate them, so they stayed at home during an abusive relationship and everything else. They're not having both parents there definitely, I think, does make a difference. It does. But just because one is male, one is female, you give me two loving people who love the kid and who's going to sit there and support them, I'll take that over, whether they're gay or not, a single parent any day. Doesn't mean single parents are bad.
Right.
It means that it takes two people to raise one of these little turd monsters. Right, Brianna?
It does. But here's the
it
problem.
Takes a lot.
When you have a government institutions and you have places that say, well, the father's supposed to be the pocketbook. He's the paycheck. He's the wallet. And he doesn't need to be part of the kids' lives. And that is a sediment that comes from our government.
Yeah, that's a problem. And that's why some people say, like, the man should bring home the bacon. Like, you go find me a woman who can bring home the bacon, I'll stay at home. Like, what's wrong with that? Like, please,
I agree with
give me
that.
a rich woman. I'll go for that.
I just think that women have too much power. Like, you can't say anything today without being called a misogynist or anything else. And you know what? I think misogyny is going to save the world because
misogyny is going to save the world.
There's a pecking order. Let me ask you something. In lion pride, do the women get bigger britches?
Lions.
Wait, no, but we are animals.
We're not lions.
We're animals.
We don't shit in the tree. We don't shit on the ground and scratch our. Well, I do scratch my balls, I guess, and so do you.
Have you ever been to Springfield, Missouri?
Yeah, been to Springfield. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So there's literally people now that part of the homeless population there, and they'll just grab onto one of those big trash can receptacles and drop their drawers and take a dump. I mean, in Seattle, it's okay.
You think that they do that because they like being homeless?
No, I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that
Okay.
even back in the day, the homeless would try to find an area, in the weeds or something. But society doesn't care